Not having enough money to do things you really want to, is a challenge to many people all over the world, but it doesn't have to be that way. Let me tell you the story of my friend, Dave. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button below for more life-changing content. Meet Dave. This is the story of Dave and how he went from working a 9-to-5, to financial freedom, by building an online business from scratch. You see, Dave is a 35-year-old IT engineer, working for one of the big corporates in the city. But what Dave always dreamed of doing, was seeing the world and traveling. Rewind 5 years, and Dave was punching the clock at this IT company, day in and day out. Dave used to enjoy his job, but it just got to the point where the passion faded, and he was only doing it to pay the bills and put food on the table for his family. Every morning, he would dread going into work. He would always wonder how he got himself into this situation. To make matters worse, he wasn't the best at handling his finances, so savings were non-existent. One morning, Dave gets to work and is introduced to his new colleague named Steve. Steve was hired as a consultant engineer for the company. Dave notices that Steve wasn't much older than him, but Steve was always smiling and seemed very happy at all times. At lunch that day, Dave walked by Steve in the cafeteria. Steve was sitting alone and he still seemed very happy. Dave wondered why he was always so happy but left him to eat alone. Every day that week, Dave watched Steve eat his lunch with a huge grin on his face. Finally he decided to ask Steve what he was so happy about. Dave sat down and reintroduced himself to Steve, and mentioned that he couldn't understand why he was always smiling. Steve chuckled and said that there was a lot to be happy about. Dave wasn't happy with the short answer and wanted him to elaborate. Dave also shared with Steve how hard it was to drag himself to work every day when all he could think of was early retirement. Then Steve began to open up and explain that being a computer engineer was his second career, which he only does because he has a passion for the industry, and that he was actually already retired. Dave could not believe what he was hearing. He wondered how Steve could already be retired, so he asked Steve to explain his story. Steve told Dave that a few years ago, he came across an ad on social media. The ad stated that there was a platform on which he could learn how to build an online business from scratch. Even though he had no business experience, the thought of having his own digital business really excited him. So, he signed up for the course, and over the next few weeks, he learned step by step what he needed to do, and how he needed to do it. He even had a personal mentor assigned to him in case he got stuck. Soon after, he started making his first commissions online. It grew from there and became better and better. Steve could tell that Dave was impressed by his story, but assured Dave that it didn't happen overnight. He had to implement what he learned and he needed to be consistent, especially when he first started out. Dave eagerly listened to Steve's story and wanted to know if the platform he used was still available. Of course Steve said, and sent Dave the link. That night, Dave could not wait to get home to see the information Steve had sent him. He clicked the link and immediately got started. Fast forward to today and Dave's living his dream life, retired and building his online business from wherever he is in the world. Today, you can get access to that same platform by clicking the link in the description below. We hope you enjoyed today's video. See you on the next one.